Welcome to In the News for July 23rd, 2021. I am Brett Burney from appsandlaw.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD.
Good morning, Jeff. It is good to talk with you. And wow, there is a pretty big story that you did a good job covering some of the bigger stories that people have been writing about this weird. It's very scary. It's more of like a serious note that I think we usually start off with, but it's good to talk about it and let some people know that this is out there and maybe some of the warnings as well as some of the, just be aware of kind of a things on this Pegasus software.
Yeah, I feel like there's sort of two aspects to this story. And the second aspect is something that, maybe we can all do something about. The first part of it is just the idea that, governments with all of the power of a nation state have the ability, if they want to go after somebody, to use some pretty serious tools. And of course, that's usually for good because they're going after criminals and terrorists and stuff. And you want to have all these amazing law enforcement resources so that they can catch the bad guys. But of course, anytime that you have power, there's the opportunity for abuse of power. And, here in the United States, we often feel like we're, not immune, but, in a relatively better situation because we do have, First Amendment rights of the press and Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment and 14th Amendment and all of our favorite constitutional amendments. But the reality is that if somebody wanted to abuse power, I mean, we certainly use that. We learned that with President Trump for 4 years, that when he was upset with the way that journalists had reported on him, he would call them enemy of the state and, fake news and everything like that. So, there's a thin line between, using your powers for good and evil. So that aspect of the story and the fact that there are governments out there that were investigating civil rights activists, journalists, other people that were, many people would argue were doing a good thing. That's not, there's nothing new. Ever since organized society in the beginning of time, those with power have had the ability to abuse power. But the second aspect of this, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just saying, I remember my constitutional law professor was always, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely true. So, anyway, those who want to be in power should not be by definition, those sorts of things.
Right.
But then the second aspect of this story is the tech aspect. And that's the part that interested me because, we've all known for years that if you click on a link on a website, you could open up something that could take over your computer. iPads and iPhones have been a little more safe than that, or email links or a link in a text message and stuff like that. I don't think that, so-and-so would have texted me and they're telling me to click this link. We usually know better. But what's scary is that hackers, when they are well-financed enough, can come up with some really creative things. So this company, NSO Group in Israel, has some of the very best hackers in the world. And they charge governments millions of dollars for their Pegasus software. And the Pegasus software tries to infect a targeted iPhone. All the government has to know is the phone number of somebody, of their mobile phone, which of course is not really that hard to find out. I mean, not that we're targets here, but I mean, at my law firm, our email signature has our cell phone number on it in case a client wants to call your mobile phone.
Go on the website,
Yeah, it's not really that hard to find out a mobile phone number. And then once you have that, they have all these things that they can do, including the traditional, like sending a text message with a link that entices somebody to click it, and then it uses some malware to take over the smartphone. But the scariest one was these zero-day attacks, where just the fact that your iPhone or Android phone received the text message with what seemed to be a picture, but was actually a malformed picture, it would cause a buffer overflow, and it would cause your iPhone to install malicious code, which eventually would allow the bad guy, good guy, I don't know what word you use, but would allow the user of Pegasus to take over your phone. And at that point, they can read your emails. They can even turn on the camera and turn on the audio and listen. I mean, it is the most invasive form of surveillance that you could possibly imagine. And there's a little bit of security through obscurity that you don't know how often they use this because, of course, it was so expensive to do. But NSO Group, they would make their customers, the government of such and such a country, promise to only use it for the criminals, but they had no direct control over who was using it.
Cross your heart. Right.
So, and again, this is just one company that happens to be in the news because Amnesty International got a list of the phone numbers that have been targeted and learned, of course, that some of them were human rights activists and journalists and everything else. And that's the story. But, none of us are, I'm sure that there are other NSO groups out there, not to mention hackers that don't even pretend to only sell to the government.
Right, right.
So it's a tough story. You know, that one of the Washington Post stories that I linked to was interviewing the founders of the company, and they're like, you know, we're doing
Yes.
a good thing. This is the one on the screen right now. You know, they say we
Right.
get stories from governments about how our software helped them catch a really bad terrorist, a really bad guy, and you're like, well, that's good.
Exactly.
Once these tools are out there, they can be used for anything. So, but you know, it gets to the what do you do? You know, hopefully, you know, most of us are not, you know, leading political figures, and you know that we're going to be a target in the first place.
Right.
But you know, it just underscores the don't click on things that are unsafe. Install every security update.
Yeah.
You know, one came out this week, for example. Apple released an iOS update this week.
Yes.
You just,
right.
you know, if you want to protect yourself, you got to be as careful as possible. And unfortunately, even if you are as careful as possible, if someone is determined enough, you know, there's not much you can do.
Yeah. You know, I just want to emphasize something real quick that you said, because I know a lot of professionals that I talk with, Jeff, they will hear something like this and they're like, oh, but I'm not too worried about that because no one cares about what I do in my little law practice or the clients that I represent. So this isn't something I worry about. And I can see that there may be a tiny kernel of truth to that. But, you know, John Simic and Sharon Nelson, they are cybersecurity experts that we've spoken with several times at legal conferences. And they are always very good, especially Sharon, to talk about the fact that, you know, law firms are sort of a soft underbelly in this area. I think that's the term that she uses, because I think, first and foremost, because a lot of legal professionals think this way. Oh, what I do is not that important. Nobody's going to be searching for me. But all of these good guys, bad guys, hacker guys, cyber guys, they know that legal professionals don't have time to worry about this kind of stuff. And they don't think that they're in that big of a deal. And so, therefore, they don't take good precautions, even though many law firms, you are entrusted with confidential information. Maybe it might not be, you know, the Coca-Cola recipe or something like that, but it could be something, and you might have something that is stored either on your mobile device or on your server. So I just wanted to underscore that quickly, Jeff, that you know, Sharon has been good to recognize, like the FBI has provided some warnings over the years, specifically for law firms, to say you need to be more cognizant and aware of this. You know, we hear about ransomware attacks and things like that. So anyway, I know I'm beating that a little hard and harshly, but that is so important. Just because you think you may not be that big of a deal, and that doesn't give you sort of the right to just, you know, slough this off. Like you don't need to be an expert on it, but you need to be aware of it and know about these kind of things. So I'm thrilled that you reported on this and you linked to some of this stuff, Jeff, because it is just important to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And
now you can go crazy with
yeah,
this stuff. As the other, I mean, if
that's
a
right.
nation state
Exactly.
wants to target you, they're going to do it. You know, they're going to
Right.
have guys out there that are following you wherever you
Right.
go. They're going to put the
Right.
old school bugs like the James Bond movies inside the lamp in your room and everything. You know,
That's right.
if they want to target you enough, you know, there's
Right.
frankly not much you can do except move to an island nation and cut
Right.
yourself off from the world or something like that. That
That's
doesn't
right.
have an extradition treaty. You know, so
Yeah.
there's a limit. You know, but at the same time, there are some things that, although they're not easy to do, they should. You know, the security measures that you should be doing. And so I think that, you know,
Exactly.
confidentiality and security for attorneys and doctors and others with, you know,
Sure.
that are privy to confidential
CPAs,
information,
right.
it is a constant challenge, because the tools that the bad guys, or in some cases the good guys, can use, the hacking tools are getting more and more sophisticated. And, you know, who knows 5, 10, 15 years from now what the technology will do. I mean, I think we may have talked about this, but I know that there are some attorneys that don't even want to have like an Amazon Echo in their house because they just don't trust something that's inherently a listening device near them. And everybody has, I mean, I don't have specific advice on that other than you've got to, you know, understand the risks and make decisions that you think are the best for you. Some things go too far, some things probably not, depending upon what you're doing, but it's the wild west out there. It's rough.
Right. I would just say a couple more things. In a lot of states have adopted what we call the technology competence rules, right? We all know about competence. We usually think about that from a substantive area, but and again, this isn't just for lawyers. It just happens to be that's our ethical rules because that's what we're sort of governed by. But it's understanding the risks and benefits associated with relevant technology. And so, I talk about this. In fact, I do presentations where I talk to attorneys just about the ethics of using mobile devices. And you and I talk about this quite a bit. Make sure you have a passcode on there. Make sure that you're aware of like location-based services and whether or not you turn that on, that kind of a thing. And what you're connecting to. All of that is important. But just quickly, I will underscore something that you mentioned and that we're always talking about. Never, never click a link from something that either someone you don't recognize or just what you said, Jeff. You did a good job. Like it may be from somebody you recognize, but it's like, why is that person texting me a
Right.
link? They've never done that before. And frankly, they're like wanting me to check out like a product on Best Buy or something. Like that's not normal, right? If
Yeah.
any kind of a flag like that gets raised, don't do it.
Yeah. It's
Either
so easy to
pick up the
spoof
phone,
someone's email
right?
address and make it seem like it's
Exactly.
coming from someone you trust,
Right.
but it's not.
Right.
So it's
And that's no matter if it's an email message or messages, in a text message. Now, as you have said, the scariest thing here is what they are calling the zero click. Like that advice used to always hold true, except in this case now, that a text message can be sent to you and you don't even have to click anything. And potentially this Pegasus software could run some kind of a malformed code in the back end that, could send information to a different server. And the only thing quickly, I'll bring this around with that. I don't want to get too geeky on this, but I anticipate, I think you alluded to quickly as well, Jeff, that Apple surely is already aware of this and they may already be taking precautions. One of the things that in one of these stories that you linked to, they said that the thing with messages is that anybody can send you a message or a text message, right? Just as long as they know your phone number. And you don't have to approve them as a sender, as a recipient. You don't have to say, yes, I trust this person. I don't know if that's true in things like WhatsApp or in fact, I think in other apps, you have to like approve individuals. I would not be surprised, Jeff, if we don't see Apple maybe instituting something along these lines. In other words, nobody, nobody that you don't know can send you a text message unless you know them or they're in your contacts or something like that, right? That could be maybe sort of a next level security component that they might be putting in on that. And by the way, this is not just Apple. This is also Android devices. You mentioned that, and I know we're talking more on the iPhone side,
Yeah.
but this is the same is true for the Android side as well.
Yeah, no, it's and I mean, Apple takes it seriously, and I know that they're going to do what they can to make the phones more secure. But the reality is that the
Yeah.
phones, computers are so complicated nowadays that there's going to perhaps always be some sort of holes in there that
Oh yeah.
if somebody is determined enough to find, they
Absolutely.
will find. They will find.
Absolutely. And by the way, last thing quickly on that too, you just mentioned Apple did release 14.7, I believe, the iOS. One of the best things that you can do as a user, one of the best things from an ethical perspective, if you will, is just to make sure that you update those those operating systems. Maybe not the day it comes out. You can maybe wait a day or two. I understand some people get a little nervous, or maybe even several days, right? They may want to have other people like us, you and me, download that first, be the guinea pigs, make sure everything's working out okay. That's okay. But don't let that little red one on your settings app, sit there for too long. In other words, that is Apple and the iPhone telling you, make sure you update your iOS. And I would even add to that, make sure you update your apps on there as well. Like you go to the App Store, click on your little face up there, and you'll see the updates. Most of them will update automatically, but it may be a good idea just to make sure to go in and update not only the iOS, but also the apps as well. Because if there are any security updates or patches or things that Apple is putting out or the app developers, that's how it will get applied to your phone.
Yeah, and statistically, iPhone users are very good about installing updates, much better than Android
Right.
users, in part because Android manufacturers don't always make it as easy to get the updates, but the iPhone does. So the good news is, I think most people are already following that advice, and it's very important.
That's great. That's great. And good on you for reporting about this. I had heard a couple of things about this and I didn't pay just a whole lot of attention, but it is a little scary. It's not quite as scary, I think, as a lot of people think, oh my goodness, I'm never going to use an iPhone again. No, no, no. It's nothing like that. But it is something at least to be aware of on there. So thanks for reporting on that. So, okay, how about let's go. We've talked about AirTags several times before. You have them, I don't yet, but I like the fact that you made a comment here that Apple or Amazon now is selling the Apple sanctioned AirTag accessories on here, right?
Yeah,
But
which
you
is
have reported, yeah. Go
well,
ahead.
I mean, and just pause on that before you go on to the next part, which is that I love the idea that Apple for a long time wasn't really, they had disputes with Amazon and stuff like that, but they
Right,
appear to have
right.
settled
I
their differences a
remember.
while ago, and now it's easier and easier to get your Apple stuff on Amazon, which is great because Amazon, obviously, I don't have to explain to people why Amazon is such a popular
Right,
retailer. We all
right,
know,
right,
and it's sometimes it's very convenient to get that if you've got the the Prime and you can get free
right.
shipping and stuff like that.
And I've got other
So I
things coming
love
all the time.
yeah, I love that more and more things you can get from Amazon, and it's convenient to get them. So I love that Apple is selling more and more of their stuff on Amazon. Typically, Apple will come out with a product, and for the very beginning it won't be there, but then eventually it will show up. Here's a perfect example of it. Some of Apple's AirTag accessories were originally only available from Apple, but now here they are on Amazon that you can get them. So that makes it
Right.
very convenient for people.
And I would say, in fact, I had the honor of being on with David Sparks on the Mac Power Users, and we were talking about some of the adapters. Typically I will recommend that people will go to Apple for any third-party accessories, adapters for your iPad or your iPhone or your Mac, or the AirTag. Like I typically go to the Apple accessories, but we've talked about this before. You've reported on this Belkin. Is it called the Belkin KeyRing on here? Really nice little thing. I think you may have it. I remember you held it up last time.
Yeah,
There it
exactly. Yeah.
is.
I mean, it's
Excellent.
so simple. It's just a little piece of plastic that has a little circle on it so that you can hook it up to a keychain or you can hook it up
Yeah,
to a strap to put it on luggage or something like that. And I mean, again, it's
it's
so
so nice.
simple that there's nothing
Yeah,
to it. They're very inexpensive. What are they, like 12, $13?
right,
And they
right.
feel good, they
Yep.
work nice. I've gone into an Apple store. In fact, I was just there a week or two ago and I was taking a look at those very AirTag keychains and holders that, and they're fine, but I have to admit, I'm perfectly happy with the one that I have. So it's nice that Apple is such a big ecosystem that Apple will often come out with their accessory, and third parties have their version too. And sometimes
Right.
the Apple version is better. I mean, they're trustworthy, they work better, but they're almost always more expensive. So
Definitely. Yeah.
cheaper sometimes means worse quality, but sometimes it means it's better. And sometimes they have features that you're not going to get with the Apple one. So I
Right.
like this.
Right.
I like this Belkin product. But the good news is now you can find all of this on Amazon. So because even in the very beginning, I think that this
Right.
Belkin product was also only available through Apple's website, and now you can get it on
Oh,
Amazon too.
interesting. So, are you still liking your AirTags,
I
Jeff? You
do,
still
yeah,
using
yeah.
it?
No,
Yeah.
I'm
They're
still
working
using
out
it.
okay.
The initial allure of isn't this cool has worn off a little bit, but it's still nice that I know where my products are and
Yeah.
can track things and stuff. So I haven't done a lot of travel yet to put it on luggage.
Right.
And even though I was going to say we're starting to come out of the pandemic now, we've got the Delta variant and. Here in New Orleans, we're back to wearing masks inside again, unfortunately. But eventually
Yeah.
we'll be getting out more, and as we get out more and more, having air tags to keep track of things will be nice.
This just in. I think this happened after you posted in
I
the
love
news.
this
I don't
story.
know. I don't know if you just saw this, but a YouTuber. We've talked about some of these, right, Jeff? Like somebody put an AirTag in the mail and followed it as it went around, the different places. But man, how great is this? Some YouTuber got a hold of some AirTags and they mailed it to Tim Cook, right? Is that
He
what he
mailed it to
did
three
here?
people. So he mailed one in North Korea and never made it that there. He mailed one of them to I forget what the other one was.
I think Elon Musk is in here,
Elon Musk.
right?
There you go.
Yeah.
And the third was to Tim Cook, and it did make it all the way to his office, and he got a response back not from Tim Cook himself, but from one of his assistants. But it is
Here
sort
it
of funny.
is.
But I always think these are funny stories because you put the AirTag in whatever the mail post, and that package is going to be near people with iPhones all around the
Right.
world as it travels.
Right.
So from a sort of a sociological experiment, it's sort of it's funny when people do this.
I love that. So obviously Tim Cook did not open it, but somebody in his office must have, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
this is the letter they sent back to him. We're delighted to hear about the creative uses for AirTags. In other words, it wasn't just a form letter. I just thought that was so
That's
cool
true.
that
That's
somebody
true.
actually responded to that on there. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go from these lovely AirTag key rings that come in multiple colors. Even Apple offers them in multiple color to another Apple accessory that Apple only releases in one color.
Yeah.
And this is the new MagSafe. We talked about this. We're starting now to see the reviews come in because it was just, I mean, you were able to pre-order it a couple of weeks ago or so, but
Mhm.
now the reviews are coming in because the actual orders are arriving. And this
Yeah.
is one you linked to today from CNN.
Yeah, but I haven't yet seen a good review of the like how long it lasts and stuff like that, because I think people just got them
Yes,
the last day or two,
right,
and we'll see
right.
those soon. And I really want to see those reviews before I make a decision as whether I'm going to get them. One thing that I noticed
Agreed.
from these reviews is when you and I were literally talking about this a week ago, the photos on Apple's website, just because of
Yeah,
the lighting on it and stuff like that, made it look to me like the sides of it were a little bit more sleek than they actually are. Now that I've seen people take, just
yeah,
regular photos with their own cameras, it looks a lot. That's a perfect one right there.
yeah,
It
right
looks
there.
it
Exactly.
looks a lot more similar than I thought it was going to, except that it's white, to the Anchor product that you mentioned a week ago that was $50, that was
Yes,
half the
yes.
price. So I what I'm really looking forward to is somebody doing a, and I haven't seen it yet. I looked for today and I didn't see it, that I could post a link to it. Somebody doing a good side-by-side review to say, here's the difference in, we know the difference in price, one's 50 and one's 100, but here's the difference in capacity, here's how they work. I know the Anchor one uses USB-C, the Apple one uses Lightning. I'd love
Right.
to see a comparison, because much as we were talking between Apple's AirTag accessories and the simple little Belkin product and ones made by other third parties, this is one where I'd love to see, how Apple's product stacks up. Apple has the official MagSafe, so it will use all the MagSafe technology
Right.
to connect magnetically and to
And it'll
charge,
be
and
on
it's
your
got 2-way
screen.
charges. The
Right.
Anchor one doesn't it doesn't have the MagSafe label, although it does use magnets, and it's basically
Yeah.
the same thing. So but it's been great to see the initial reviews. Another thing that was interesting is people saying that, notwithstanding what I just said about how it looks, some people have said it's actually pretty easy to hold in the hand. I didn't put a link to it,
Yep.
but Renee Ritchie on YouTube had a good product video where he was showing it off, and so I've seen some videos and I've read some reviews, and
Right.
people cautiously optimistic. So I continue to think it's possible that one of these is in my future, and I know that for a lot of
Yeah.
people this is going to be
Right.
perfect. One interesting thing I saw this week is somebody saying that don't think of it as a product to recharge your iPhone, because MagSafe charging is too slow. Think of it as an
Right.
extender that, like, I'm
Yeah.
starting to get
Exactly.
near the bottom, slap this thing on the back of it, and then it will just extend it and give you a couple more
Yeah.
hours. Don't be looking
Right.
for this to bring you back up to 100, but it will slow down the slow march towards zero and give you many more hours
Right.
on your phone. And I thought that was an
It'll just
interesting way to describe it.
Right. It'll kind of give you a little bit of relief from that panic, right? Like, okay, I'm on a call, or I've got another call coming out, but I'm only on like 12%. I just need something to top it off. And I
Right.
like that because the somebody was saying it's like a 5-watt charger or something. And I've never really understood all the wattage, but in other words, it's very slow. Like just like exactly what you said, Jeff. This is not going to like charge your phone in 5 seconds or something, and it's really just going to extend that. And I think I like that. Like we've talked about, I can slip this in my pocket, and it's going to be something that I know I can just slap on to give me the confidence that I can get through this next hour phone call that I got to, conference call that I got to jump on.
Yeah, that's a good use
The
case.
other thing quickly, yeah, some of these were saying, we didn't know exactly what it was going to feel like. That the outside is like this hard plastic. Some people were thinking maybe it was going to be, leathery or some leatherette or something. I don't know. But then on the side that magnetizes to the phone, it is kind of a nice felt like velvet or some kind of a thing on there. But anyway, people are just saying that from everything I've read so far, it's well made. And like you said, it's something that, you can you slap on. I love this other thing. I don't know if you link, yes, you did link to this, right? This was a neat little trick. I mean, now it's a little more expensive to do this, but somebody came up with this. I thought this was genius.
Yeah, I mean, I have one right here that I've had for years. One of these little, it's an
Yes.
Apple device that just lightning cord plugs into the back of it, and it has a little lightning jack. And so you sit your iPhone on top of
Yeah,
it.
let me pull
And
up
it's a
yours.
way that as my iPhone is sitting here in my office, it can be sitting on a stand while it charges,
Yeah.
and it holds it up
Yeah.
at an angle so that I can see it. So I like that aspect of it. It works
Yeah.
very well. Somebody figured out that you can take the MagSafe battery and put the MagSafe battery on it, so it sits up there like instead of the iPhone leaning back, and then you have a nice little stand that
I
you can
love
plop your iPhone on and it stays magnetically, or you can pull it
Yeah.
off and it charges while it's on there. That's that's a clever
Well,
use
even
case.
in your review, like you did this in what, 2017, I think, right? This is the lightning dock.
Yeah, it's
And
been
I
out for a
loved how
while.
you even put this in where you were showing how to charge AirPods. You can
And
put
I
your
still do that, regularly. Yeah.
That's neat. And it's the same kind of a thing. So so if you have one of those like you do, and if you do get a MagSafe, which I believe that it's in your future as well, then you can plug that into that little dock and then just basically pop your phone onto the side of it. I just think that's ingenious. That's
Hmm.
great. I love it. Oh my goodness. I love the ecosystem on that. All right. So, how about a couple of bonuses? A couple of things that you linked to, Jeff, which were actually fantastic. Carrot Weather, which I've started using. I haven't subscribed yet, but I'm just using the free version. And I know people have been talking about this for a long, long time. And I love it. I'm probably going to end up subscribing to it because it's just one of the best weather apps on there. But you linked to a story from Mac Stories where John Voorhees, a prolific writer, great. Everything that he reads is fantastic. But now even Carrot Weather allows you to create your own weather forecast, which I just think is really
It's
ingenious. And
too
John has a
funny.
little link down
Did you
here.
try it out yet, Brett?
I haven't yet, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
going
did one
to.
last night. It's funny
Chip
because like you
Cyclone.
hold up
Oh,
your
you did?
iPhone, yeah, and you it has words on screen, so it gives you a script that's funny, but that does tell you the current news, and you just pretend like you're a weather forecaster, and it has the little graphics come along the bottom, just as if you were on the local news giving a weather
I
forecast.
love it.
It's a cute idea, and it's a gimmick, but it's too funny, and kudos to them for doing something silly and
That
fun.
that is great.
It's great.
Will you link to this quickly? Because I don't want to go away from the fact that you talked about Weather Strip earlier this week, right? You had a review on this
Yeah,
on
a
this
great
app.
app.
Great
Hmm.
review on this.
Yeah, I
I
love
just
it. It's nice to have a different way of looking at the weather. You can see everything in one time.
yeah.
It's a great app. It's worth taking a look at.
All right, bonus number two. I love this that you link to. I try to follow these every year.
Oh,
I think this is the 14th annual
mm,
iPhone Photography Awards. So every picture on here is from an iPhone, and I love it. They tell you what kind of a phone they were using. I mean, this is even an iPhone 7 for crying out loud
yeah, I
on
think
there.
there might be even a 5 on here or something like that. It just goes to show you that part of taking a good picture is having, great lenses and everything else. But, part of
Yeah,
taking a good picture, look at that one. My goodness, is just
I
being at the
know.
right place at the right
Beautiful.
time and having the eye. And I wish I had that when I meet true photographers that have that eye. They
Yeah,
just know what you need to do and where things need to be and what the light needs to
yeah,
be. What a
yeah.
skill that is.
It's
But the good news
beautiful.
is with the iPhone, another way to do it is take pictures all the time. And if you take 1,000 pictures, one of those 1,000 pictures
One of
might actually be
those.
as good as what the photographer who really thought about it beforehand came up with. So
Right. Right. This is great. Thanks for linking to this. I probably spent, I don't know, at least 8 minutes or so just kind of looking through each of these pictures, and they're just beautiful. I mean, I guess it's inspiring to me that I have an iPhone, and like you
yeah,
said, if I keep taking enough pictures, maybe one of them will hit. I don't think I'm going to go into the iPhone Photography Awards or submit it or anything, but anyway, just really good stuff. I'm glad that you linked to that. All right, so in the know, how about a couple of tips? And it looks like we got a couple of tips on the messages side today. I'm currently traveling, by the way. I've got a different situation where I am right now, but I'm thrilled to continue to be doing this. But one of the things I recognize is as I'm traveling, I've got several text messages that I'm going back and forth. And back home, I've got a couple of groups that I'm a part of in my messages, right? Well, obviously, I'm not home right now, and I've been driving for a while, and I'm going to be gone for a few days. Well, I can't participate in that group. In other words, I can't be wherever they want to be, and I don't need to know all of the messages that particular group is sending and receiving right now, if that makes sense. Well, I don't want to turn off all my notifications, but one of the things you can do, there's a neat little trick inside your Messages app on your iPhone, and I've done this now, is that you can go in, and let me find it because there's several things you can do in here. But if you go to that conversation, which is all the groups there, and if you slide to the right on that conversation, one of the buttons on the far right will be the red trash can. I don't want to delete it. I don't want to get rid of that conversation and those messages, right? I just don't want to know that everybody's pinging things back and forth. So the second button, when I swipe to the left there, sorry, I meant swipe to the left, the second button is a little blue bell icon with a slash through it. And if you tap that, all that does there, it actually puts a little crescent moon to the left of that conversation. And it basically just stops notifications just for that conversation.
you're still
So in
getting
other
the
words,
messages.
Still
It's
getting
just
all the messages. If I want to look at them, I can go into that, but it just doesn't pop up on my notification screen. I'm very busy in the things that I'm doing right now. I don't need all those things popping up, at least from that conversation, right? If my wife texts me or somebody else, I do want to see that. And I want those notifications to come through. But for this particular conversation, I don't want the notifications. Messages still come, all the notifications for the other conversations still come through, but I just have stopped notifications just for that conversation. And then when I'm done, when I get back home, I'll just swipe again to the left, tap that little bell icon, and all the notifications will start coming back on that again. So that's my messages tip for the day. Mr. Jeff, what do you
So
have?
your messages tip was when you were a little bit more on the antisocial side. Mine is if you happen to be a little bit more on the social side, no judgment, we all are in both situations. So
That's
if you're
right.
going to meet somebody and you're sort of on your way and you want to let them know how far away you are, you could just sort of, try to estimate. I think it's not here I am, other sort of stuff. But in the Messages app, there's a great tip that if you are messaging somebody and you type, I'm at. So I''M space AT space. When you hit that second space after I'm at, you'll see an option right above the keyboard on the iPhone that says location. And you just tap on that word location and it will send a little map to another person that shows exactly where you are so that they can actually see you. So that's nice. And that way you don't have to go through and describe where you are. They themselves can see where you are and they can figure out, oh, he must be about, 15 minutes away. Or another tip that you can do is if you want to actually let somebody follow you, and of course you can allow friends and family to follow you all the time if you want to, but you can do it temporarily. So in your messages conversation, at the very top, there's a little circle that has the person's face, or if you don't have their picture, just like a little initials or something. So if you tap on that and then tap on the information button, you can choose to share your location with another person. And there's choices that says you can share your current location, you can share your location, and you can choose it for a current period of time. So I've had times where I've had other attorneys that I'm meeting with, and we're coming from different places. We're going to meet at the courthouse together, and then afterwards we may get together with our client. And so I will just share my location for the day, and that way, and the other person will too. So that way we know where each other is that day on days that it actually matters, and then we're done. And then once the day is over, we're not sharing locations and we can go back to our private lives and stuff. But I find that useful because that way you're not bothering the person of where are you and how far away are you. So if you find yourself in one of those situations where you need to share your location with someone else currently or for a period of time, there's two good tricks that I've used for years and they work very well.
I love these tips, and I've been using them since several years ago. You and I presented together, and you shared this tip, Jeff, and I've been using it ever since. I like it for exactly the reason you're talking about. Instead of like if I'm in the car, not that I'm texting in the car, or if I'm walking somewhere, it's like I can just quickly tell somebody, okay, I'm 5 minutes away, and I'll be right there. Like, but I don't want to sit there and type all of that. It can do it for me. That's a great tip.
Yeah, the car was a good one because you do it before you jump in the car. That way, it doesn't matter if you hit traffic or something like that. You may be running late for the deposition, but the other person that's already in the deposition or in the meeting, they in their phone could see exactly, oh, now I can see where Jeff is, or now I can see where Brett is. And I can see he's right around the corner. He's parking now, those sorts of things. And that can be really useful.
Okay, that is fantastic. Jeff, always fun talking with you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining today, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Brett. Goodbye, everybody.